Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Barb Hemme. I've been with Codabears a little over a year, and today we are going to learn about MES material handlers quantity adjustments. We're going to stay mostly on PowerPoints today. That's not generally the way that I train, as some of you may know, but there's a lot of flipping back and forth on this particular training that we want to avoid so that we don't waste your time today. So an employee will clock in on the data collection just like they always will. And so you can see here that I've clocked in as Barb Test and I've clicked in on my shift 2 and I've done that under the production tab, which is where everybody will clock in on a regular basis, and then they can either clock in on indirect or they can clock in on a job and be logged in for the day. We aren't going to use that production tab that you see right under the words data collection. We're going to instead go to the material tab. A material handler does not need to be logged in on a job. They just have to be logged in for the day. They can click on the material tab. They are going to adjust material in one of two places. The one that says adjust material will actually take them to the job. It will not take them to the actual adjusting of inventory quantities. That will happen with the adjust inventory that you see on the right hand side. So when we're going to start with adjust material, the employee will have to select a job. In this case, I picked job 2038. It will give me the part number. So I want to make sure that I'm on the right assembly and the right material that we have in the bill of materials. It's telling us where that is. It's on the shop floor, and this particular material happens to be in the saw bin. It gives us the part, which is coming again from the job, and what we want to adjust. In this particular case, the material handler said, whoops, we shouldn't have issued that material to that job. So it does show you the quantity that's required is 1,250 feet. And we're saying previously issued was 80. We can do an adjust quantity plus or minus. In this case, I chose to say that the 80 should not have been issued to the job. And so I did a minus quantity, and it shows you the total for this transaction underneath there. You can, in fact, do lot tracking through this as well. This particular part is not lot tracked. When we do that, we can find the information because this was on a job. We can see here that the job was adjusted by the 80 feet, and you can see that the unit cost came with that on this particular job. It was $1.72. 1.72 is the unit cost per foot, and we see a cost adjustment of a minus 137.60 on this particular job. So no more would that 80 feet be included in that particular part. The next adjustment that can be made is adjusting the actual inventory. When we do this, we would go to the quantity adjustment screen, and you'll notice that I have at the top, we have selection picked, and I've picked part number 00M3. It tells me that I have a quantity on hand currently of 62 units. This one has a warehouse bin, so we've selected the bin 010103, and we've listed the adjustment. If you use PCID, and you would know if you do or you don't, we could put in the PCID number as well. We see that we're adjusting it to a certain bin. We're adding a quantity of 50 to that bin. In this particular case, I picked a reason code of cycle count variance. The reason codes are set up in a separate table by management. Cycle count might not be the correct code. It just depends on your organization. You may want to just put that something like a quantity adjustment as a reason code for the material handler to select when they make this adjustment. We can then see under recent adjustments, the item that we just changed by 50 units, and we can also print out the selected adjustment, and we get a report that looks like this. If you choose, you could print this out on the shop floor, have it go to a shared printer so that somebody else could maybe get the listing. It could go to a supervisor's printer, says exactly what bin, what the reason was, and any other references. You'll notice it also says adjust quantity on there. It's not giving us a total cost because, to be honest, there wasn't a cost in for this unit before I did the adjustment. So it's actually reporting it exactly the way that the piece was adjusted. The next thing we can do to find this adjustment is we could look on Part Tracker. So I did in this particular example, I did on hand in the sites. You could do this on the warehouse, the bins. Any one of those will give you, this is Part Tracker, so you're not printing anything. You're just trying to find where everything happened in the system. You noticed I mentioned that the original quantity was 62. We adjusted it by 50 pieces, and now it's telling us that the new on-hand quantity is 112 pieces. The other place we can start looking is we can go to the inventory WIP account reconciliation. In this case, I added some costs after I did the quantity adjustment. And so now we see the cost showing up in the general ledger for those standard costs that I added in the system. Here's what part transaction history tracker looks like. So you see that I added the balance running total on 5/24 was 62. We added 50 by adjusting the quantity. And then I added costs, labor, burden, material to the system. And that's why you see it do a minus 12 and a plus 12. It actually minused out 12 with zero cost, and then it added 112 with the cost attached so that now we have accurate information. How does physical inventory cycle count work with this? Remember, if you're doing in the middle of a cycle count or a physical inventory count, you have pulled out and locked the records for that particular part or those particular parts. You need to remember that those have been pulled into the cycle count physical inventory group. If you adjust on the warehouse floor through MES while the part is checked out, the quantity on the tag will need to be adjusted and then entered into the system. So be very, very careful that you watch out for this particular situation if it's happening. If you don't have a cycle count or a physical inventory count going at the current time, it won't matter. Just go ahead and do the adjustments and the system will record it appropriately. That's rather it on MES and material handlers and what happens when they do quantity adjustments. Are there any questions?
From Patrick, you can adjust cost after doing a quantity adjustment. Cost will automatically apply correctly. Usually we adjust cost before quantity if required.
You can do either or. It's up to your company practice. In this particular case, I noticed that there weren't any costs coming through the system, so I did it after the fact. But yes, you can do it ahead of time.
Can the access be restricted in these screens the same as the normal quantity adjustment screen?
Yes.
From Jill, in your experience, are the adjustments reliable? Should there be guardrails on who can do it?
They are as reliable as your employees are as entering information. If you have a material handler who's known for doing very accurate quantity adjustments, then you shouldn't have any issues. Your safeguard could be that report, which may wind up being on a supervisor's desk so that they can verify that, yes, that's correct. So you can put some safeguards in it, but it's just like anything else in the system. It's an immediate adjustment. So it's dependent on how reliable your employee is.